All right, here we go. I'm bursting. Another team that is dying to get to the All-Star break is the New York Yankees. So, this is a stretch that is all too much like what we've seen in the previous several years. Okay. The Yankees are 6-16 in their last 22 games. So since June 13th, which is their last series win, which was again a four-game series where they won 3 out of 4 on the road in Kansas City, solid series win. Since then, 6-16, they have yet to win a series. They split a series with the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. Hooray. But that's all we have for the last month. We've been among the worst teams in baseball since the middle of June, and it's on both ends. We can't score runs. We can't pitch. We can't throw out of the bullpen. It has been an utter nightmare for about a month. And here's really where I want to take this. And I understand that there are a lot of Yankee fans that want people to blame. Whether it's Brian Cashman, whether it's Aaron Boone, whoever, right? I mean, whatever buzz name you want to throw out, that's really, that's who takes the blame. Oftentimes it's Brian Cashman. I'm going to go to Brian Cashman's defense on this one. This team should be good, and it's not. Now, I don't want to overreact and say that the season is over and that, everything was a fluke. I'm not ready to do that yet. I think the Yankees will bounce back. I think it'll be fine by the end of the year. However, you do kind of have to ask yourself what really is the bigger issue here. And I've been saying it for a few years now. The Yankees are one of the worst teams in baseball at developing players at the big league level, period. And I've been saying it for years. There is no reason why this roster shouldn't be performing at a better rate. They just shouldn't be. Okay? And it goes back to, if you look at what this team is now, right? Anthony Volpe was a top 3 to 5 prospect in all of baseball since he's come up, right? I like him, but he hasn't performed like a top 5 prospect, right? He had a great March and a great April. And ever since then, he's been horrendously hot and cold. Okay? Austin Wells, same thing. Top 100 prospect. One of the best hitting catchers in the minor leagues. His OPS is under 700. This is kind of where we're at, right? We have players in the major leagues that rake in the minors. As soon as they get to the bigs, there's absolutely little to no production from them whatsoever. But this doesn't just start here. This was years ago that this was happening. Okay? The whole baby bomber project, everybody remembers that, right? The whole baby bomber thing where it was Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and Gleyber Torres and Greg Bird and Miguel Andujar and whoever else, Clint Frazier, they were all coming up at the same time. And they were supposed to be the Atlanta Braves. They were supposed to be these teams that just breed young talent. Well, whatever happened to that? How many of those guys actually panned out? I understand that, when you gamble on prospects, right? I understand that, okay, some of these kids just aren't built for it. I understand that. But if you have 7 guys coming up at the same time and 6 of them don't pan out, that's something within the organization that you're doing wrong. Okay? Gleyber Torres was a top 3 prospect in baseball, and he's a fine big league second baseman. But I didn't sign up for a fine big league second baseman. I didn't sign up for a guy who's hitting 210 and has 6 home runs in the middle of July. That's not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for Greg Bird being out of the league. I didn't sign up for Gary Sanchez going elsewhere and finding a place in Milwaukee. Okay? I didn't sign up for Anthony Volpe hitting 250 and having an OPS under 690 by the time July rolls around. I didn't sign up for that. And I don't think any Yankee fan did. I don't think any of the Yankee organization did. If you look at what the Yankee roster is today, can you really blame Brian Cashman? Who are the guys that are really having an issue today? It's Anthony Volpe, self-developed. Gleyber Torres, self-developed. Like, there is something in the major league organization, okay? Because these guys rake in the minors. Something at the major league level that is turning these guys into dust. And that's the really frustrating part for me. Because the reason why we bang on Brian Cashman so much, oh, why didn't you go buy a left fielder? Why didn't you go buy a second baseman? Why didn't you go buy a third baseman? Because that's not how baseball works. To some extent, you need your own guys that cost nothing to perform. And the Yankees haven't been able to do that for a decade. That's why they're bad. And that's what has me infuriated. So there you go. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point is well made with regards to their hitting development at the major league level. Because there are some names that you didn't even mention that come into my mind, right? Like Osvaldo Cabrera, it doesn't look like he's all that special of an offensive player. I think you did mention Austin Wells, right? But that's another one where like there's all this potential, and then he gets the majors, and it's just kind of like, all right, well, that's just a guy. And it makes you wonder, like, Ben Rice obviously has been awesome so far in limited action, but like,
yeah, right.
It gives you pause. I'm like, do I actually believe in this? Like when the league adjusts back to a young Yankee player, can the staff guide him through adjusting back to the league? I think it's a fair question to ask when it comes to the Yankees. I think, I don't know exactly where you look to remedy that. I don't have it off the top of my head as far as like how much shuffling they've done with hitting coaches at the big league level. I do think that you have to put a little bit of that on Boone. A little bit of that still, I think, goes on the farm system, because at the end of the day, the farm system's job is to prepare a guy for the big league level.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, minor league stats aren't worth anything. Like, they're just not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're worth nothing. So to me, whether a guy's putting up big minor league numbers or not, it doesn't really speak to what the farm system's doing. The farm system's entire purpose is to create major league talent. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to be frustrated with the offensive talent. That being said, and you've heard me say things to this effect throughout the season, the truth is always somewhere in the middle, right? I said it when they were as hot as can be in April and May. I'll say it to you after an ugly June and beginning of July. Like, they're not this bad. They weren't that good. They're not this bad. The truth is somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing that I would invite you to take solace in, there are only 4 teams in baseball that have a run differential of greater than 100. They are the Phillies, the Orioles, the Dodgers, and the Yankees. They're still right there in that class. After a 6-16 stretch, they are still one of only 4 teams at a plus 100 or better run differential. They are still only 3 games behind the Baltimore Orioles in the AL East. How much of a that's it? Look, I get it. It feels like the sky is falling during moments like this, and the big difference between the Yankees and the Dodgers is that, like, the Dodgers just don't have a whole hell of a lot to worry about in their division yet. Like, even when the Dodgers aren't playing well, nobody's gaining ground. So like, there's a little bit of a different feeling to that. But look, man, I don't blame you for being frustrated. It's not fun when your team plays a month straight of shitty ball. Like, that sucks. So I'm not gonna like downplay that. But the truth is somewhere in the middle.
I don't disagree. And like I kind of said before about, like, I think I might have even said exactly what you said. I don't think the Yankees are this bad, right? I think eventually they will turn it around and we'll all be singing praises again. But they're not going to get May hot, I don't think, but they'll be fine somewhere. Like you said, the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think that that's an honest thing to say about that. Like I said, though, I think the bigger issue is, as a Yankee fan, is you really have to ask yourself, why is it that when you think about, you made a good point, because I didn't say this before. It's really like offensive players really kind of seem to be the thing, right? I think the Yankees can somewhat develop pitchers. Luis Seal's pretty good. Clark Schmidt's pretty good. They churn out bullpen guys like it's popcorn. Like, it's unbelievable what they do with bullpen guys. Excuse me. But you have to ask yourself, why is Aaron Judge like truly the only guy that legitimately hit? Like, why is he the only guy? And the answer to that is, and it's kind of funny that it happened this weekend, right? Like, Aaron Judge went elsewhere to get a hitting coach. Aaron Judge went outside the organization to get help. And that hitting coach then called out the Yankee organization for saying, wow, their offensive development sucks. And at this point, you're like, okay, you go down the list. Volpe, Wells, Torres, Clint Frazier, Andujar, Bird, Sanchez, whoever else. Like, okay, like maybe you're not wrong here. Like, and even the guys that they bring in who are major league veterans at the same time seem to somewhat regress in New York. And some of that might be New York jitters and everything like that. But you got to kind of ask yourself that question. So, yes, very, very frustrating. I'm out of breath.